On today's episode of That Mental Ginger Show, we are talking to Stephen Douglas of Scare Scotland Talent. You know that I'm all about my crossovers. I like tying in with other shows that we do. And you may not be aware that we have just recently started a horror podcast, the Ginger Scaredy Cat podcast. If you love seeing me getting the absolute wits scared out of me, I suggest you like and subscribe it. That's not just why we're doing the crossover. Like Scare Talent Scotland is not only associated with unique types of horror actors and any type of other actors of that ilk, but they also have a very successful business that needs to get some more love and support, and I'm all about helping people. So if you don't catch it tonight, go on to Ginger Scaredy Cat podcast and catch it tomorrow. So let's cut to the intro, shall we?
All right, troops.
Stevie boy, how you getting on, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I've had a busy day. Well, that's what we were kind of talking about before we went on air. You know, we got busy lives as creatives, haven't we?
Yeah, we've always got our fingers into something, haven't we? Usually not to everybody's, not usually always a good thing.
Well, it's better to have too much and too little. That's what I always say.
That's very true. That is very true.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like to do is I like to find out about the kind of origin stories of our guests. So what, kind of how you grew up and what got you into what you're into and stuff. So for my audience, tell us your origin story.
My origin story. Well, I was born in Glasgow in 1971. Probably giving away my age there. I'm not as old as I look.
Hey, I'm shite at maths, so it's all right.
Thank fuck for that. And I moved to Northern Ireland when I was 7 years old.
All right.
And I lived over there for a few years. And it's over there that I first got into horror movies.
Wow.
And,
so what was the horror movie that got you into it? Like, what was the key one?
The key one? There's probably not any one answer to that, because it's more of a thing that used to happen. Me and my mother used to watch the old Hammer movies on a Saturday night on BBC Two, Dracula and Frankenstein, Peter Cushing and all those sort of folk,
Nice.
And that was me and my mum's time. They would come on at 11 o'clock at night, and there was always two of them, either the sort of various, classic Hammer movies, and we'd sit and watch them. She'd get a couple of wee cans at the weekend,
Nice.
Wee cans, and I'd sit there with a bottle of cola and a packet of crisps, and some chocolate, and we'd sit and watch all that, and it all sort of stemmed from there.
Nice.
And it was through that then I discovered video nasties.
Hey.
the video nasty craze of the 80s, and when I was at school, we used to sort of share them around, things like Dawn of the Dead and Evil Dead and,
nice.
And Psychic Killer and Driller Killer and all that sort of stuff, the right sort of, usually these things, the cover was better than the actual movie,
The artwork was fantastic on those type of covers, man. Unreal.
Yes,
don't make the artwork like they used to.
Oh, no, they don't. I think they spent more on the artwork than they did the film, to be honest. A lot of them were sort of doing the rounds in school and stuff like that. And then I lived in a small place in Northern Ireland called Antrim. It's not a big place. It's about 35 miles outside Belfast. And if you wanted to go to the pictures or cinema or something like that, you had to go to Belfast. We didn't have a cinema. And then everybody started getting sort of Betamaxes and VHSs and stuff. Remember the big battle with all that, and you were in school, I've got a VHS, and Betamax is shite, all that. These sort of arguments went on,
Yeah.
And then a video shop opened in Antrim.
Wow. What one? Was it Global Video?
It was called Antrim Video, funnily. It was a wee independent one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a wee independent one. And so you're sort of 11 years old, and the first thing we did was, I used to browse in it. I wasn't even allowed a membership, but I would just hang around. And the guy who was the owner used to throw me out. You go, what are you doing hanging about in here? And I would just look at all these movies, and And eventually he would just eventually he just started letting me have them.
Nice.
You know, take that up the road and watch that, you know, and I'd just sit and watch all these really obscure horror movies. And then he started getting things in like The Thing and stuff like that, and I would get that up the road and I think I would wear the tape out, you know, and just watching them. And then anytime there was having a horror movie actually coming on TV was quite a rarity, you know, especially, you know, it was Channel 4 used to stick them on sometimes, and no long after they started, and it was must see TV for me, you know. And you know, if I knew something was coming on, I'd sit there. That would be me, plonked in front of the TV, and nobody dared disturb me, you know. And I had a couple of sisters, and they would come up and annoy me, because they would. Remember, these are the days where having more than one TV in your house was a luxury, you know.
Yeah.
So everybody, so I would hijack the TV. Well, they were trying to hijack it for Top of the Pops, you know.
I think you made the right choice.
I think I did. I think, well, you know, I'm probably more fucked up than them then, you know. but yeah, so that was how I got into it. And then you see the videos would get swapped around school, and you try and find the sort of ones that nobody's seen before. And then the one that resonated maybe the most, the one that got me into sort of was Evil Dead.
Very
know,
nice.
And the thing is, there wasn't many copies of that knocking around, and you know, and it was in the sort of the list of video nasties that the government had at that point had put out. So everybody was after it, and when I finally got it, you know, I was like, oh yes, and I got it, and it was a pirate copy. It didn't even have a cover. You know, and I was like, oh yes, I've got this. And I sat and watched the shittiest copy of Evil Dead ever. You know, but still, I watched it 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, and hoping every time it was just something wrong with my video player. And it wasn't. I think it was a 15th generation copy or something of it. You know. But it's still, then I finally, maybe about 5 years later, when they released it properly, I got a proper version of it, and was blown away by it a second time. You know, and that also opened my eyes to the sort of filmmaking aspect. I'm not a filmmaker by any stretch of the imagination, but when I sort of looked into the history of how Evil Dead came about and how they made things out of nothing, you know, just, you know, like attaching cameras to skateboards and, you know, and dragging them up a path, and, you know, these guys had nothing, but they had passion, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and that certainly resonated with me big time. And then in 1983, and I still remember the date, 1983, 12th of July, 1983. I was still living in Northern Ireland at the time. The 12th of July is a very significant date in Northern Ireland, you know.
Yeah, very significant.
And while everybody was out sort of shouting and bawling and marching up and down the streets and singing songs they probably shouldn't, I was sitting watching Alien.
Very good.
Very
nice.
It came on, and it came on the TV, and that movie just blew my mind. You know, the claustrophobia of it, the creature itself, the acting, the story, you know, everything about it just stuck with me. And even to this day, you know, I collect alien memorabilia now. That's probably my go-to thing. And, you know, and that movie is probably the one that sort of, I've always loved that claustrophobic stuff.
Yeah.
You know, where everything's, you know, like that. And then after that, I watched the Wicker Man.
Oh, nice.
You know, the Wicker Man. And that popped up on Channel 4 one night. And I was actually babysitting my sister. My mum went out. My mum didn't go out much, but now and again she would just go out with her friends. And my sisters were up the stairs sleeping, and the Wicker Man came on Channel 4. And I'd never heard of it. And I was like, oh, God, nothing on, bang, watching it. And I'd never seen anything like it. And, you know, and it's not, you know, to those that have seen it, it's not a gory movie. It's not it's sort of not supernatural. It doesn't hit anything you expect in a horror movie. You know, just the thing about the sort of cult thing and all that going on, and of course the ending. You know, and I'm just sitting watching. I remember sitting watching it. I didn't understand it the first bit of it at first because I was young.
Yeah.
And I was getting more and more drawn in with this, and it's one of those movies that really unsettles you.
Yeah.
Because even though you've got the Edward Woodward character walking around this small island, you know, trying to investigate this murder, there's always something sinister going on in the background, you know, and I've watched it dozens and dozens of times now, and I've noticed things in it all the time. You know, like he'll be walking down the main street of the village, and a member of the public who's just in it will stop and stare at him. You know, and oh Christ, I never noticed that before.
Yeah.
You know, and as the sort of story builds and builds up, what the whole thing is leading to, and of course the ending just blew my mind. You know, and I was like, I remember just sitting there on the couch, and my sisters were upstairs, and I'm just sitting like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think a movie of that ilk has ever been made since. People have tried, you know, and obviously there's the remake, which will go unmentioned, you know, but you know, step away from the bicycle, you know that.
Yeah.
You know, but that movie,
it's more known for the certain, you know, what, not the
the bees.
bees. Yeah. That's more known for that.
Yeah, but you know, that movie, I don't think anything has ever touched that. You know, it touched it and went into, you know, and giving you that totally consistently from start to finish. You know, that feeling of unsettling feeling for the minute I can't remember the name of Edward Woodward's character in it right now, but from the minute that he arrives to the very end, it's unsettling from the very second, you know, that comes up.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes you feel, because it doesn't have any gore, it doesn't have any of that. There's always this feeling of, oh, it's you know. But
Yeah.
that was certainly one.
Yeah, the psychological parts of it are always like really kind of, they're underplayed these days. I think. Well, I always like watching like more of a psychological thriller than like a straight up torture porn.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like the first Saw, I loved it because there was a bit of mystery behind it. There was a couple of bits where you're like, oh, dude, really? But most of it was all about what was going on in the mind. And then it just got into just like, oh, let's do the torture of the week thing. And it was just like, really? It just.
Yeah, the Saw stuff. I enjoyed the first one. I think I enjoyed it. I quite liked the second one as well. But they got ludicrous, you know. And like you say, it was just torture porn for the sake of it, you know. The thing we saw was everybody who was in those traps and stuff at the start of the franchise sort of deserved it in a way. You know what I mean? Not that anybody deserves that, but you know, they were. There was a reason why they were there. It wasn't just for the sake of it, and you know, it just wasn't. We're going to capture you, take you to a cottage and torture you. You know, there was these people had done something pretty nasty, or you know.
Yeah,
so and he was getting his sort of own back in a way, like a vigilante sort of thing.
Yeah,
and then it just got silly, you know. And then the character Jigsaw dies off, and then bring him back, and then he's got minions, and it's like, fuck off, you know.
Yeah,
and that last one that came out there, you know, I watched. I actually turned the one with Chris Rock in it.
Yeah,
I actually turned that off. I was like, this is rubbish, you know.
Yeah. I just avoided it. I thought, nah, bail out.
You know, Chris Rock actually looks embarrassed to be in it.
Unless that's just his serious face.
Maybe it's only one.
The only one that he knows is just like.
He's got the Seagal thing.
Yeah, I think Seagal would have done a better job, in fairness.
Very, very probably. It would have been funny him running it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Scare Scotland. We're here to promote that. So tell my listeners about Scare Scotland.
Scare Scotland was a very silly idea. It's still a very silly idea. It came about because me as an actor, not that I'm any good, I started off in doing what you call scare attractions.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of live things, people buy a ticket, you go on and you chase them up and down a corridor with a chainsaw sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I started off by doing that. And I'd done quite a few of them over the years on and off. And I worked in various, most notably, I worked in Alien War for a while. I actually loved my time on that, being an Alien fan. That
Oh,
sort of was
definitely.
the dream job. They're actually letting me kill xenomorphs, you know? So I got to run around with my pulse rifle and so I was doing all that sort of stuff. And then there was a scare attraction sort of came to Scotland, and it was called 2.8 Hours Later. And it was a sort of a city-wide, it was really well done. It was a city-wide sort of zombie chase game thing.
Yeah.
And you had to go to certain parts. They did it in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Liverpool, every major city in Glasgow got it, and the UK got it. And they came up here for 2 or 3 years in a row. And then the company who did it sort of went a bit tits up. They went bust. Goodness knows why, but this thing was selling out all the time.
Yeah.
And there was a need for it. People were wanting it. And then someone else down south in England, I'm not dissing English people here by any means, but someone else was looking to take up the mantle of it.
Yeah.
And but my issue with it was, I was glad it came, and it gave me an opportunity to do some more scare acting and play some sort of different characters and stuff. And I said to myself one day, do you know something? We have the ability here to do this. We have the talent here. We have the crews here. We have the actors here. We have the set builders here. We have them in Scotland. So the initial idea was to bring people together who wanted to work in that genre of entertainment.
Yeah.
Scare attractions, scare tours, because even though we've had Alien War and we've had sort of Generation Z, you know, and all these sort of big, massive scare attractions, Alien War being Scottish, which eventually went down south. But they were bringing up their own crews, their own main actors, and everything was all coming up in vans and trucks. You know, they'd build it, sell the tickets. A couple of us people who were based here would get the crumbs. You know, the crumbs, the little bits they couldn't fill, you know. And I've been working with these actors and these scare attractions who were just frustrated because they couldn't get any work in these things. Anything that you can get your teeth into anyway, literally. You know. So I came up with this idea. Say, how can I get everybody together? So I just met with a few folk in a pub, as you do.
Of course. That's where the best ones come.
Yeah, and it was some of the folk who'd worked in the previous 2.8 Hour Later, and a couple of the Alien War guys, and and a couple of other folk who I knew were sort of involved in scare attractions, and I brought them together. When we all sat down and I had this sort of meeting, and I threw this idea at them, we could all get together. So when these companies come here, it saves in their costs because we'll have a crew ready to go.
Yeah.
So for a while that worked, and some of the places we were coming up and we were getting actors in these things, and then we got this, and we were just working in small ones because the scare attraction scene in Scotland isn't that great. It's a bit sort of naff. It's a bit amateurish, you know. Where there is good ones. I'm not saying they're all like that. There is good ones, and these things will pop up for 3 days and disappear again. You know, and so there's not really anything consistent.
Yeah.
So I got a call one day from this company from New Zealand who were bringing this thing over, and this was our first big challenge. See, we'd been doing things all over. Scare Scotland as an entity existed then, and we were sending folk. There was no film or TV work at this point, and because that was never the goal. And we did this show at the Edinburgh Festival called Generation Z, which was a groundbreaking scare attraction thing, and it was underneath a car park in George Square at the Edinburgh Festival, and this thing was huge, and it was Hollywood style special effects, and it was this live show, and for 46 shows I had to provide 100 zombies every night.
Wow.
Yeah. And when the guy asked me that, they were flying all this stuff over from New Zealand. Obviously they couldn't fly over 100 zombies that they'd used in New Zealand. And they said, "Can you do that for us?" And I just sort of went, "Yet." Yes.
That's the
I
best way
said
you do
yes.
things.
Yeah. And after the word yes fell out my mouth, I went, "Oh, God."
Mhm.
See, we already had about 40 folk on Scare Scotland's books then who were doing some of them were doing little regular bits and here, there. I mean, we'd just go out and have some fun and do stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so Generation Z happened, and it was, let's say, 46 shows. It was 2 shows a night, lasting an hour each, and then they upped that to 3 shows a night.
Nice.
And this thing was absolutely mind-blowing. It's the first ever scare attraction I've ever been in that ran multiple storylines at the same time.
Awesome.
And the audience were making decisions of what would happen. You know, I'll give you an example. Like, you know, they would run into a medical lab and there'd be a pregnant woman lying on a gurney, and one of the main actors would run up and want to, and the baby she's had, it was brutal stuff. It was gruesome. Would put a gun to her head, and because the baby's, she's been bitten and the baby's going to be infected, and all the actors would start arguing, yeah, no, don't do it, and all the rest of it. And then they would turn around to the audience and go, "What do you think?" And the audience would have to make the decision what happened to her.
Wow.
Yeah, most of the sick bastards shot her in the head, mind you.
It's Scotland, of course it is.
Do you know what was fascinating about that was it really resonates. See, scare attractions are sort of, they're looked down upon in the sort of acting fraternity because there's no much room for character development and all these sort of things. But this was different. There was a lot of that went on. You know, it was scripted and there was very little room for playing around, and it was all boom, everything. Everybody had to be perfect. And folk were actually, it hit them, it resonated with the audience emotionally.
Yeah.
Because they were making decisions. They weren't just getting chased up a corridor, as I said earlier, with a guy with a chainsaw with a Michael Myers mask on. You know, and 3 jump scares and that was it, and you're out into the gift shop. But you know, it wasn't like that. This was an emotionally driven story. And it got me looking at it and going, fuck, this is raising the bar here. You know, and it did. So everything I took from that now, when I work in a scare attraction, that I suppose it's like nicking ideas in a way, but you know, going, we can make this better.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just need to run down a Harris fencing corridor, you know, and zombies hanging their arm out of thing. You know, it's putting different characters in, characters that mean something, characters you can emotionally attach yourself to, and things like that. You know.
Yeah,
But,
I wouldn't say
so
it was nicking ideas. It's like you're taking a concept, you're thinking about how you can put your own spin on it, your own unique ideas to it. So it's not nicking it. You're just taking the idea and going, let's do something different with it.
Yeah, and it's the typical Scottish mentality. You know, and we totally embraced it. You know, it was selling out every night. You know, tickets were selling. It was 35 quid a ticket, if I remember correctly, because it was quite a long thing, and it was obviously an expensive set. So they were trying to make as much money back as they could.
Yeah, of course.
And then it was sold out every night, and then we found out that tickets were getting sold hand to hand for 150 quid a hit.
Wow.
And it was the number 1 show in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival that year.
That's amazing.
And you know what? The whole thing, and they did it so differently. You know, for the minute you bought your ticket, you were involved. If you bought your ticket 3 weeks before it, you could download an app, and there was a wee tiny QR code in your ticket that you couldn't see. You could scan it, and your phone would start doing mental things and sending you emergency alerts and all this.
Wow.
And then the posters that were going down, that were all around Edinburgh, you could do the thing with the app with that, and you could scan the app, and the app would give you a news flash and all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
It was absolutely incredible.
That's brilliant, man.
It was, and I've never seen. Ironically, they moved it to London. It didn't work. It failed.
Do you think it is because it was something that was quite like you said, was quite a Scottish concept? Scots are all about being in amongst it and enjoying it and having a good laugh with it, and that, and being sickos as well. Londoners are more, I would say, reserved. Like they wouldn't want to be as much involved.
Well, the first thing that happened down in London was they complained about the posters in the London Underground being too gruesome. I had a picture of a zombie on it. And they put all these millions of posters. You know how big the London Underground is. It's huge, you know.
Yeah.
These were in a lot of the major stations, and they put thousands of these things up, and they all had to come down because somebody found them offensive. It's like, this is a joke, you know. And
Yeah.
it lasted like maybe, I think it was 3 months in the end, but and they'd expanded on it down there. They'd made it even bigger. They'd taken over an old Marks and Spencers or something. It had like 4 floors.
That's already terrifying
And,
enough.
yeah, and it just didn't happen for them.
Wow. So what events have you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened after that. There's a wee sort of very important part, right? And I'll tell you what's coming up.
No worries,
man. From that, we didn't know. It was kept from us by that. There was some producers from what's the name? From a production company there who'd been commissioned to make a live action zombie show for the BBC. Now, we do zombies a lot of stuff. I get a bit pissed off with it, but you know, if it pays the bills, I'll keep doing it. You know, but we didn't know that they'd came to see us do our thing, and so they went through the show 2 or 3 times, and they weren't paying any attention to the show. They were paying attention to my guys.
Yeah.
Oh, and which, you know, compared to the actors, you know, there was no lines or anything like that. So I'm getting this makeup off with all the crap that you got to wear, you know, and
yeah,
I got this tap on the shoulder, and it was this TV producer, and he just handed me his card. And he went, "I'll phone me. I want to have a meeting with you." You're right, no fucking bother. You just fill it, mate. You know,
yeah.
And I ignored it, and then about a week later, they phoned me. I thought you were going to call me, and I got called into Queen Street in Glasgow, and I met with this production company, and it's the same mob that make Big Brother and all that sort of stuff.
All right.
And they decided that they were making a TV show called I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse.
Oh, wow.
And it was a game show, and they were filming it out in an abandoned shopping centre in Livingston. And they basically wanted us to replicate what we done in Generation Z on this TV show.
Wow.
So it was like a live action thing. It was like a zombie show with an element of Big Brother in it.
Yeah.
So they got
zombie reality TV.
Yeah. So they got 10 folk from various walks of life, and they locked them in this shopping centre for 3 weeks, and we basically fucking ran them ragged for 3 weeks. And it was an absolutely mental shoot. You know, the shoot sort of, and it was the thing. We had to change what we did. You know, because when you're in a sort of scare attraction thing, it's like theatre. You know, if you one shot at it, you fuck it up. You don't get it. You can't change it. You know, and our actors had to act differently, and you know, and there was a lot of standing about, waiting, lights and cameras and all that nonsense getting ready. And then one of the contestants would come out, and they'd have like a crystal maze type thing to do. You know, it'd be either like going to get water, or you know, going to get food, or go and find something, you know, and then they'd get chased about with a bunch of fucking lunatics in a shopping centre.
Sounds like an average Saturday night.
Aye. So I was fortunate enough where there was a sort of, from a personal point of view, there was a sort of finale to it where they needed a big fuck off zombie. They needed a big, huge zombie, and I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", and I was a lot bigger then, and I got cast as that guy. It was called the Abomination, and that this is my sort of 15 minutes of fame, if you like. And so they all had to come out and eventually face the big man, me, and I killed 2 of them.
Nice.
And from that, the show itself wasn't so successful. It was put on BBC 3 at the time, which was in a state of sort of flux because it was a bit of a political football with the BBC 3, because it was sort of youth orientated, and BBC wanted to pull the plug on it. and then it got saved in the end. So it wasn't really promoted as far as the sort of BBC. You know the BBC, they put something, they spend a lot of money on something, they batter the hell out of it, you know. And it didn't. It seemed to sort of get forgotten about.
Yeah.
And this was an expensive show. It was, you know,
well, in fairness, my friend, I did not forget about it. The second you said that title, my eyes lit up. I knew exactly what you were talking about. Like, so there'll be people out there that will not have forgot that.
Well, it's got a bit of a cult following now, and it's never been released. You know, like, you know, sometimes these things get put out in DVD and whatever. And, you know, and you know, there was a wee bits of merch. You know, there was a comic made and all that various things, but it's never been put out digitally or on DVD or anything. And it's on YouTube, you know, but it's never been properly put out again. But after we sort of finished it, and we didn't know, because we were obviously waiting on viewing figures and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And they were quite low. But they were quite low. We met them again, and they were going to do a second series of it, but they wanted to do a celebrity version.
All right.
And we were all, get Katie Price, please get Katie Price. You know. So there was discussions with that, and then the viewing figures for it came in, and it didn't do too well, so it got canned.
Oh man, sorry to hear that.
You know something? I'm not bothered, because, you know, we had a great time. It got us into that era, into talking with these people in TV and film.
Aye,
you know,
it got the foot in the door, so to speak.
Aye, and because you'll know yourself, you know, the film industry is like, if you're trying to get in, it's like running into a brick wall. You know, you know, and it's bang bang. You don't get anywhere unless you know someone, or they've seen you do something. You will, how can I like to see you do something if you won't let me see you do it? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing when people say, "Oh, we need people with experience," but how are they gonna get people experience if they don't hire you in the first place to get the experience?
Yeah, like and we were in that loop, you know, and we still are. You know, we still are even now. You know, that's 10 years now, 8 years, 10 years, 10 years. Aye, fucking 10 years. Jesus Christ, good God. And but we motor on, you know, and it's only now, even so long after, we thought we could capitalize on it. And I don't want to sound negative, but I thought, we can capitalize on this. We now have our foot in the door here. We can maybe look at doing other things, you know. And again, it's 3 months after that, we bang, the door closed on us again. And we were like, fuck, you know. But I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding of what we do.
Yeah,
you know, I always get it all the time. You know, you go to I don't go to a lot of these networking things. You just meet the same people at them. But you know, I get people come up to you, "Oh, there's Stevie for Scare Scotland. You're the zombie guy, aren't you?" Yeah, that's not all we do.
Yeah,
you know. So we moved into other creature actors. You know, and we, you know, if somebody from a movie has got an idea for a creature, and I'll phone them. Well, I've got a guy who can, because they can maybe move strangely, or, you know, or has a unique skill, or you know, that sort of. So we've started going down this route. You know, like for example, actors with limbs missing and who can crawl along the floor, and you know, because there's an art to creature acting. People think you just stick a mask on and you can just fucking rock and roll and away you go. It's not, because as a creature actor,
I was just saying, it's like any other form of acting. Like, you've got to like do your work. You've got to like, and yours is very inclusive as well. You can't get any other actor going, right, I want you to do a part, I need you to chop your arm off. You won't get somebody doing that.
Okay, so after that, there was a bit of a lull of nothing, because we couldn't get past this brick wall. And then I got another phone call one day from the folk who were making Rillington Place. With the Tim Roth thing. Yeah. You know, and it turns out obviously about the serial killer, you know, and they asked me if I would provide stand-ins. I was like, right, we've not done that before. Yeah. And I said, well, what exactly are you looking for? And they went, Well, we've got three actors here, and they're not very comfortable with Tim Roth murdering them. I was like, he says, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, the murders are quite gruesome, and he actually, after he kills them, he sort of puts their bodies into walls, and we've got the actresses here are refusing to do it.
Wow.
So he said, do any of your guys do that? And then it fell out my mouth again. Yes.
Yep. In
And
fairness, Wrestling Place was absolutely brilliant. I remember watching that.
it was great. Aye. Well,
Yeah.
all the murder victims in it are Scare Scotland folk,
Brilliant.
sort of standing in. And then we done that. That took a couple of days, and there was all the makeup stuff, making them look like the actors that were supposed to do it and all that.
Mm.
And then part of the story is in that is one of the, as there was a because it's a true story, you know. You know what I mean? Basically, there was a person got the blame of the murders.
Aye, he got hanged for it.
He got hanged for it, right? And the actor who was going to do it was looking at the gallows and all that, and he bottled it. And he was like, I'm not doing that. So I got another phone call. Hey, Stevie, have you got somebody who's 5'10", short dark hair, and weighs so much and get this? And I was like, I do actually. So we've got an actor called Paddy Irwin. So Paddy went along and dressed up the same, like all the rest of it. He didn't need to look like him because it was a bag going out his head anyway.
Yeah.
So Paddy was gets done the harness stuff and all that, and then they did a couple of test runs of it, and Paddy kept walking off it. There you go. And then the actor changed his mind when he realised it was safe. So Paddy never got used in the end, but he still got paid.
Aye, and he got the money. That's the main thing.
Aye, and he got his. And it probably didn't look very well in a lot of those actors that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, but it's cost the production more money and whatever. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But yeah, we got involved with that, and that was certainly an experience. And we've done a lot of student stuff. We like to help students out, young filmmakers, maybe doing stuff. And then recently there was the thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not. But there's a big TV, I better not, but a big TV production it just wrapped the other day in Glasgow. It's an 80s thing. And they needed somebody that could lift up the main star in the middle of a crowd scene.
Wow.
And do that comfortably without sort of, because they brought in loads of extras for your sort of extra agencies and stuff. But that's a bit, they're there just to stand around and be extras, you know, be supporting artists, you know. And they needed someone who with a different skill, who was strong enough to hold the actor up on his shoulders, walk forward and walk backwards in a crowd scene and not drop the guy. You know, and then I got the call for that, and they said, have you got someone that can do it? And I said, actually I do. And we sent one of our guys along there, away he went. And you know, so we get little bits like that, and I'm happy with that. You know, because there's a misunderstanding that we supply supporting artists extras. We don't. And you know, because there's no way that a company as small as Scare Scotland can send 60 folk into a TV production. Just the sheer management of it is, it's not beyond us, but it's not something we want to do. You know, there's agencies up here in Scotland. You've got BBB, you know, those guys who do all that stuff perfectly well and do a lot better than we'll ever do it. So I can send small groups of specialist actors to do a certain thing. You know, either be creature acting, lifting a guy up, you know, getting shot in the head, you know, because they know how to fall over and all that sort of thing. Because one thing that we do, which is maybe unique to an agency, is, no, I don't like using the word agency, but it's to keep things simple, is we invest in our actors. They're not just names in a sheet, you know. And somebody phones me up, send me 10 guys that look like this. I will go and talk to the actors first. And go, look, this has come up. I know you can do this. Are you available? And what we do is we train them. So if not that we make a lot of money, but we'll work on their skills. For example, we'll send them in a fighting course or something, you know, paid for by the company.
Yeah.
You know, we'll cover their headshots for them and stuff like that, because starting off as an actor for anybody is difficult, and we see ourselves as a gateway
Yeah.
for folk who want to come in. So we created this thing called Undead Academy,
Nice.
and it starts off with teaching somebody how to be a zombie, and how
Brilliant.
to do it well, how to do the screaming, how to do how to take a bullet hit, how to fall over and no hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all. We did Anna in the Apocalypse. We were involved with that.
Oh,
You know,
man, I loved that. Well, it was that's John McPhail, wasn't it?
yeah. We were involved. We were.
John's a
And we
brilliant guy. He's
he
he's
was great.
fantastic.
Well, when we were working on it, was a different director at the point at that point. But then I don't know what happened there, but probably none of my business. But you know, then John came on board, and then we did bits and bobs. We also did the promotion for it.
Oh, nice.
Where we had folk running around in Princess Square in Glasgow, and you know,
Yeah.
running out of shops and dragging people into shops and biting their heads off, and then we did a big one in Edinburgh and stuff, and you know, we were outside the Usher Hall, and we people that was it. You know, the zombie apocalypse would just kick off outside the.
Yes,
that was fun. We do a lot of promotion stuff for movies, you know, and the Glasgow Film Theatre Film Festival uses a lot to bring movies to life. You know, they'll put a movie on, and then we do an interactive thing. You know, like, in fact, I put on our Instagram there the time we did Total Recall.
Yeah.
You know, and we built a sort of a recall area, and then we had a salesman going up and going, "Would you like to have your dreams come true?" and all this sort of stuff.
Oh,
We did
wow.
we did The Matrix with them, Final Destination.
Wow.
Horror-wise, we did Blair Witch.
Nice.
We did that up in a park up the north of Glasgow. They do a thing like a secret cinema type thing where they don't tell anybody where the movie's being shot, being filmed, or what movie it is. So they give us a few months' notice to pull something together, and they say, "We're doing the Blair Witch up in a park in north of Glasgow. Can you do it? And can you put an interactive experience in?" So there's an old ruined castle up there, and they had to cut through the castle, and the guy standing with his back, and we had all the sort of mythos going on with all that.
Nice.
And then my favourite one ever that we done was Blade.
Oh.
We brought Blade to life.
Wow.
And we did that in the old Leith Theatre. And that was part of the thing called Hidden Door Festival. It was one night only. And we went balls to the wall on it. You know, and it was, again, we stole some bits from Generation Z, you know, that it was totally, from the minute you bought your ticket, something was happening. You know, for example, when you arrived at the venue, you were scanned by the security. You were vampires, and the scanner scanned your hand and told you if you were a vampire or if you were human. And if you were human, the actors treated you like shit. And you were shoved around and all this sort of stuff. And there was 2 bars, and vampires weren't allowed to go to certain bars and all this sort of stuff. And then there was like a treasure hunt that went up through the old dressing rooms, and they had to follow the sort of tattoos the characters had, and to get to these different bits. And then do you remember the character that was the big sort of a beast character? I can't remember the character name.
Can't remember the name, but and the one that would Blade basically set on fire.
Yeah, well, with the light. Well, we had that. And the actor who done that was an absolute trooper. Her name, you know, an absolute trooper. She was in that costume for like 9 hours.
Whoa!
And hunters would go in, and she was in a big sort of bathtub, you know, and with a big belly and all this. And you had to go in and get information off. You had to point the ultraviolet light at her, and scream and all that, and smoke would come off, and you know, and then they'd show the movie, and things would. So we would give certain scenes where things would happen. Like, for example, the classic scene at the start of Blade, when Blade's trying to get into the nightclub and they don't let her in. Right, so what we done there was so while Blade's arguing with the bouncer, then eventually he punches the bouncer in the face, and the bouncer goes back. Well, we had a guy dressed exactly the same. Just at that moment, he got punched in the face, come flying through 2 doors.
Wow.
And into the main auditorium, he would roll down and get up and pull a gun out, go, "You bastard!" And you know, and obviously we couldn't get Wesley Snipes. And then so we Well, he did tweet
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But
There
so we hinted that he was running around the building,
Hmm.
and now and again a head would fly over the balcony or something and would land in the middle of the audience and stuff. And
Oh,
you know,
nice.
I was really quite proud of that one. So it's
Yeah.
not just about TV and film horror stuff with us. We like to get in among the nitty gritty. So I
Hmm.
think this makes us unique, makes Scare Scotland talent, as we're called now, a unique thing.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
can do,
definitely.
and funnily enough, I was at a film premiere. We were working on it. We did a little film, a sort of a grassroots thing. We helped out on a thing called Dick Dynamite 1944.
Ah.
You have to see this thing. Well, it's absolutely insane. This was all filmed in Fife, and it's how can I explain this movie? It's
Hey.
Nazis with zombies doing knob jokes
Yes.
for 2 hours. You look it up, Dick Dynamite 1944, absolutely mental, and they
Mm.
made it for pennies.
Yeah.
And these guys have pulled out every favour in the world. They'd Spitfires and everything in it.
Wow.
And the premiere of it was last week, and I went up to see, and I was doing a little bit of promotion thing for them up there, and I was standing in a big mean security guard hunting zombies and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And it was, and it, we would like to get involved in stuff like that because that's at the bottom, not the bottom rung, but that's us giving something,
Hmm.
you know, to a
Yeah.
filmmaker who's got nothing and is scrimping and scraping for the resources. And if they phone us up or email us, can you help us? 9 times out of 10, we'll say yes. It's not
Mm.
always about the cash. If it's a good project, we'll do it.
Yeah. And
You
that's a
know,
good thing though. Like, that's something that you want to do is what when you get to a certain point, you want to give back. Why? Because
I think
it makes you feel good. Like, and you
it
know it's
does.
good, and I know it does good.
The thing is as well, because we know how it feels to hit that brick wall.
Hmm.
You know, to not to we get so frustrated, and we we're on the outside. We're not in with the clique. I don't like using that word, but we aren't in with the establishment, if you know what I mean. And I like it that
Yeah.
way, that we are outsiders and we
Yeah.
can do the little things that the big agencies can't do.
Hmm.
You know, because you know, I know there was issues when they were filming Good Omens in by Livingston Way recently, where there wasn't enough people and stuff like that. They never came near us. We would have been perfect for that.
Hmm.
You know, the demons and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And we never
definitely.
got we never got the call. And what tends to happen is productions play safe. So and I can see why, because it's not, these things aren't cheap to make.
Hmm.
And oh God, phone Scare Scotland. No, I don't know. They've not got a lot of people. We need 60, and I better phone BBB. You know, and
Mm.
BBB will send 60 great
Yeah.
folk, but they can't do what we do. So
Hmm.
the AD too has to walk around going, can you do this? Can you do that? Come here a minute, you. I need, and that's 20 minutes talking to this guy. Can you do this? Who's probably
Hmm.
going to say aye anyway because they want featured. You
Aye.
know, and any supporting artist, that's what they do. Let's be straight here. You know, if
Oh,
you
aye.
get a wee bit extra screen time, you're going to take it.
Hmm.
You know, I can give the assurance that they won't need to have that 20-minute conversation on set because they've had it with me a week ago.
Hmm.
You know, and I'll send them the right person who can do that and go in and do it with no fuss and leave.
Hmm.
You know, and the thing is, we're not expensive either.
Well, there you go. That's the key part right there. That's you saving the nugget for the end. I love it. That's the salesman in you. So for my
Aye.
audience and any other audience that should get in contact with you, because well, for one, you're one hell of a salesman.
Oh
What
well,
and
I'm not.
what?
I'm a worst salesman in the world. I have to say though, I'm not though. There's another guy that runs Scare Scotland with me. His name's Chris Campbell, and
Mm,
he's a bit of an unsung hero. And I'm usually the one doing these sort of stuff. Actually,
yeah.
you look quite a lot like him now. There's two of you. I'm going to
It's
Chris,
like
take
in the reveal.
the and he's a bit of an unsung hero in Scare Scotland.
Mm,
He holds the thing together. I go and talk shite in places, and I'm the front, I'm the face, you know. And
mm,
Chris is the guy who holds it all together. He's the one that put together the Undead Academy and all
mm,
that stuff. And he seems to get forgotten about. So as far as
yeah.
I'll shout out for him. I think
No,
if you wouldn't mind.
no, definitely. Like you've gave the shout out for Chris as well. Like, and we're all about like supporting like the quote unquote the unsung heroes. That's what I always like to do. But where can like any artists that should find you? Give them your socials.
Well,
Tell them where they can find you. Sell it.
you can find us on the usual Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just put, I think we're at Scare Scotland on Twitter, Scare Scott Talent on Instagram. Just same on Facebook, and we're www. Is that right? www.scarescotland.co.uk. I'll warn you now, the website isn't currently being built at the moment, so it's a sort of a bit of a naff one. But there is a contact page on there that you can get a hold of us, and we usually get back pretty quick, or just messages on any of the social media platforms.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can pass you a phone number, and we can talk what your requirements are. We can do anything. We can do anything from even if it's daft events. You just want to get somebody dressed up as Michael Myers to scare the pants off your auntie.
Yes, I might hold you to that.
Hey, I actually have the latest mask over there.
Oh, yes. Oh, we got to see this. A wee exclusive.
Exclusive. This isn't the one you buy in the shops. This is the one that actually comes from Blumhouse.
Oh wow. Oh, that is amazing. That is fantastic.
Because we did some promotion for the last Halloween movie.
Yeah.
And I think they're wanting us to do some more this year. So.
Oh, fantastic. There you go.
So we get a bit of a laugh with that, we sitting in cinemas scaring the shit out of people.
In fairness, and I would be the guy that would be scared shitless. I am the ginger scared the cat.
At least you admit it. Well, the clue's in the name, eh?
Yeah, I'm a shite bag, but I freely admit that people like to see me suffer, so that's where the money is.
Well, ironically, it's for someone who likes to do scare attractions, I don't like going through them. I just want to punch people. That's it.
The tagline. That'll be the tagline. That's what I just want to punch people.
I think it's because a lot of them know it's me. And they go, there's that bastard there, and we'll get him back for what you've done to us,
Oh man, it's absolutely brilliant. Stephen, you have been such a brilliant guest. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Oh, it's been fantastic, man. Keep plugging away and doing what you're doing, because you're fantastic. Your work's good.
Thank you very much.
And you've got a great reputation. Just from the market research that I done, which I just call stalking. Let's be honest.
Fair dues.
It's fair dues.
Positive stalking.
Exactly. There is such a thing. I invented it. All the stuff that I heard about you was great, and I'm wishing you all the success going forward. And
we don't get a lot of feedback, People, once you do the job, you usually don't hear much, and it's nice to hear that people like us,
Oh, definitely, man. Highly recommended. And for anybody else that is looking, check them out. Because they deserve it.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Yep, it's my pleasure, man. So until next time, my faithful followers, Ab and Andrew Durnan, it's been Stephen Douglas. Check out his talent agency, give him some work, give the talented, not support artists, but what would you identify them as?
Unique artists. Artists.
Give his unique artists the love and money that they deserve. So until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.